Namaskar. Today we will discuss about great English poet Alexander Pope. I am Rajni Meena, Assistant Professor, Government College, Rawatbhata. Introduction of the poet. Alexander Pope is regarded as one of the greatest English poets and the foremost poet of the early 18th century. He is best known for his satirical and discursive poetry, including The Rape of the Lock, The Dunciad, and an essay on criticism, as well as for his translation of Homer. After Shakespeare, Pope is the second most quoted writer in the English language per the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations, some of his verses having even become popular idioms in common parlance. He is considered a master of the heroic couplet. His early life. Alexander Pope was born in London on 21 May 1688, the year of the Glorious Revolution. His father, also named Alexander, was a successful linen merchant in the Strand. The poet's mother, Edith, was the daughter of William Turner, Esquire of York. Both parents were Catholics. Edith's sister Christina was the wife of famous miniature painter Samuel Cooper. Pop's education was affected by the recently enacted Test Acts, which upheld the status of the established Church of England and banned Catholics from teaching, attending a university, voting, and holding public office and on penalty of perpetual imprisonment. Pope was taught to read by his aunt and went to TV School in about 1698 to 99. He then went on to Roman Catholic schools in London. Such schools, while illegal, were tolerated in some areas. In 1700, his family moved to a small estate at Popswood in Winfield, Berkshire, close to the Royal Windsor Forest. This was due to strong anti Catholic sentiment and a statute preventing Papists from living within 10 miles of London or Westminster. Pope would like later describe the countryside around the house in his poem Windsor Forest. Pope's formal education ended at this time, and from then on, he mostly educated himself by reading the works of classical writers such as the satirist Horace and Juvenal, the epic poets Homer and Virgil, as well as English authors such as Geoffrey Chaucer, William Shakespeare, and John Dryden. He studied many languages and read works by English, French, Italian, Latin, and Greek poets. After 5 years of study, Pope came into contact with figures from London literary society such as William Congreve, Samuel Garth, and William Trumbull. From the age of 12, he suffered numerous health problems, including pot disease, a form of tuberculosis that affects the spine, which deformed his body and stunted his growth, leaving him with a severe hunchback. His tuberculosis infection caused other health problems, including respiratory difficulties, high fever, inflamed eyes, and abdominal pain. He grew to a height of only 137 meter, means 4 feet 6 inch. Pope was already removed from society as a Catholic, and his poor health alienated him further. Although he never married, He had many female friends to whom he wrote witty letters, including Lady Mary Bartley Montagu. It has been alleged that his lifelong friend Martha Blount was his lover. His friend William Cheselden said, according to Joseph Spence, I could give a more particular account of Mr. Pope's health than perhaps any man. Sever's slander is false. He had been gay and left that way of life upon his acquaintance with Mrs. V. Early career. In May 1709, Pope's Pastoral was published in the sixth part of bookseller Jacob Tonson's Poetical Miscellanies. This earned Pope instant fame and was followed by an essay on criticism published in May 1711, which was equally well received. Around 1711, Pope made friends with the Tory writers Jonathan Swift, Thomas Parnell, John Arbutt, who together formed the satirical Scribbler Club. Its aim was to satirize ignorance and pedantry through the fictional scholar Martinus Sclavrus. He also made friends with Whig writers Joseph Addison and Richard Steele. In March 1713, Windsor Forest was published to great acclaim. During Pope's friendship with Joseph Addison, he contributed to Addison's play Cato as well as writing for Guardian and The Spectator. Around this time, he began the work of translating the Iliad, which was a painstaking process. Publication began in 1715 but and did not end until 1720. In 1714, the political situation worsened with the death of Queen Anne and the disputed succession between the Hanoverians and Jacobites, leading to the Jacobites' rising of 1715. Though Pope, as a Catholic, might have been expected to have supported the Jacobites because of his religious and political affiliations, according to Maynard Mac, where Pope himself stood on these matters can probably never be confidently known. These events led to an immediate downturn in the fortunes of the Tories, and the Pope's friend Henry St. John, first Viscount Bolingbroke, fled to France. Pope lived in his parents' house in Mawson Row, uh, Chiswick, between 1716 and 1719. The red brick building is now the Mason's Arms, commemorating him with a blue plaque. The money made from his translation of Homer allowed Pope to move in 1719 to a villa at Twickenham, where he created his now famous grotto and gardens. The serendipitous discovery of a spring during the excavation of the subterranean retreat enabled it to be filled with the relaxing sound of trickling water, which would quietly echo around the chambers. Pope was said to have remarked that were it to be have names as well as it would be complete it in everything. Although the house and the gardens have long since been demolished and much of the grotto survives, it now lies beneath Render House Independent Co-ed School and is occasionally open to the public. His poetry, Essay on Criticism. Essay on Criticism was first published anonymously in 15 May 1711. Pope began writing the poem early in his career and took about 3 years to finish it. At the same time, the poem was published. The heroic couplet style in which it was written was a moderate new poetic form, and Pope's work was an ambitious attempt to identify and refine his own positions as a poet and critic. The poem was said to have been a response to an ongoing debate on the question of whether poetry should be natural or written according to prede- predetermined artificial rules inherited from the classical past. The essay begins with a discussion of the standard rules that govern poetry by which a critic passes judgment. Pope comments on the classical authors who dealt who dealt with such standard and the authority that he believed should be accredited to them. He discusses the laws to which a critic should adhere while critiquing poetry and points out that critics serve an important function in aiding poets with their works and opposed to the practice of attacking them. The final section of an essay on criticism discusses the moral qualities and virtues inherent in the ideal critic, who Pope claims it also the ideal man. The Rape of the Lock. Pope's most famous poem is The Rape of the Lock, first published in 1712, with a revised version published in 1714. A mock epic, it satirizes a high society quarrel between Arabella Fermor, the Belinda of the poem, and the Lord Peter, who had snipped a lock of hair from her head without her permission. The satirical style is tempered, however, by a genuine and almost voyeuristic interest in the vieux monde, fashionable word of the 18th century English society. The revised extended version of the poem brought more clearly into focus its true subject, the onset of acid individualism and a society of conscious consumers. In the word of the poem, purchased artifact displays human agency and tribal things assume dominance. Dunciad and Morales. Though Dunciad was first published anonymously in Dublin, its authorship was not in doubt. Pope pillared a host of other hacks, scriveners, and dunces in addition to Theobald. And Maynard Mac has according called its publication in many ways the greatest act of folly in Pope's life, though a masterpiece which would become one of the most challenging and distinctive works in the history of English poetry. Writes Mac, it bore bitter fruit. It brought the poet in his own time the hostility of its victims and their uh, sympathizers who pursued him im- implacably from them on with a few damaging truths and a host of the slender lies. In 1731, Pope published his epistle to Burlington on the subject of architecture, the first of the four poems which would later he grouped under the title Moraleses. In the epistle, Pope ridiculed the bad taste of the aristocrat Timon. Pope's enemies claimed he was attacking the Duke of Chandos and his estate canons. Though the charge was untrue, it did not damage to Pope. An essay on man. An essay on man is a philosophical poem written in heroic couplets published between 1732 and 1734. Pope intended this poem to be the centerpiece of a proposed system of ethics that was to be put forth in poetic form. It was a piece of work that Pope intended to make into a larger work. However, he did not live to complete it. The poem is an attempt to vindicate the ways of God to man, a variation on Milton's attempt in Paradise Lost to justify the ways of God to man. It challenges as prideful and anthropocentric worldview. The poem is not solely Christian. However, it makes an assumption that man has fallen and must seek his own salvation. It consists of four epistles addressed to Lord Bolingbroke. Pope presents an idea on his view of universe, no matter how imperfect, complex, inscrutable, and disturbing the universe appears to be. It functions in an rational fashion according to the natural laws. The natural laws considered the universe as a whole, a perfect work of God. To humans, it appears to be evil and imperfect in many ways. Pope ascribes this to our limited mindset and limited intellectual capacity. He gets the message across that human must accept their position in the great chain of being at a middle stage between the angels and the beast of the world. Accomplish this and we potentially could lead happy and virtuous lives. The poem is an affirmative poem of faith. Life seems to be chaotic and confusing to man when he is in the center of it, but according to Pope, it is really divinely ordered. In Pope's word, God exists, and is what he centers the universe around in order to have an ordered structure. The limited intelligence of man can only take in tiny portions of this order and can experience only partial truths. Hence, man must rely on hope, which then leads into faith. Man must be aware of his existence in the universe and what he brings to it in terms of riches, power, and fame. It is man's duty to strive to be good regardless of other situations. This is the message Pope is trying to get across to the readers. Later life and works. The death of Alexander Pope from Museus, a threnody by William Mason, Diana, holds the dying Pope, and John Milton, Edmund Spenser, and Geoffrey Chaucer prepare to welcome him to heaven. The imitation of Horace followed. These were written in the popular Augustan form of the imitation of a classical poet, not so much a translation of his work as an updating with contemporary references. Pope used the model of Horace to satirize life under George II, especially what he regarded as the widespread corruption tainting the country under the Walpole's influence and the poor quality of the court's artistic taste. He died in his villa surrounded by friends on 30 May 1744 about 11 o'clock at night. On the previous day, 29 May 1744, Pope had called for a priest and received the last rites of the Catholic Church. He was buried in the nave of St. Mary's Church, Twickenham. Thank you so much for watching this video.